Welcome to Venus Transmissions. I'm Sat Avtar. I'm super excited to have this video and introduce this information to you today as the first video of 2024. So excited to share this information. This is going to be a bit deep, and I invite you to, have a glass of water, really make sure that you're in a space to take in this information and this download and be very meditative about it. I'm probably going to separate this video in two parts. This is an opportunity for us to really connect to ourselves on the deepest level, the deepest truths, what we want for the next year, and reflect back on the previous year. And I'm going to talk about Kali Yuga, the Aquarian Age, and all of these teachings. We have been preparing for this time. As a Kundalini yogi, so much of what our teachings are based on is about this time on the planet. And that wisdom, I have seen more and more, especially over the last few years, become more in the mainstream, more common knowledge. This has been stuff that we've been talking about for decades. And now I'm seeing it everywhere. So I want to tell you a bit more about this information, the yogic philosophy and history behind it, get a little bit into astrology, and just have some fun. So again, I'm Sat Avtar. I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, emotional frequency coach, somatic healer. I make mantra music. And you can find my classes here on aquarianyogi.net. I have a membership of practices. I would say the theme for 2024 really is about alignment. And it's about doing whatever we can to keep our energy flowing, to keep moving. That's why these practices in meditation, exercise, awareness are so important. 2024 is going to be a pivotal year. It is the ending of the 12-year cusp between the Piscean Age and the Aquarian Age. 2012 was when it started, and we're finally here. I remember New Year's Eve that night. I remember thinking this and being like, okay, so we're going to be getting the Aquarian Age has officially started. Here we are in the 12-year cusp. Like, let's go. There's a lot for me to reflect on. I was living in an ashram. I moved into that ashram later. It was a Sikh Kundalini Yoga ashram. It was a really important time in my life where I was very deep into learning these teachings and spiritual practices. And I had left LA. I had sold everything I owned, everything that was related to what I was doing in the costume industry. And I just, looking back, it was the biggest surrender, the biggest act of trust. And that's what we really need to do for 2024 is we need to trust. There's a group of people we've incarnated on this planet to help others, to basically go through everything first so that we could help others understand it. And that's what I really value and believe has been important for me becoming a Kundalini yoga teacher, because it wasn't something that I decided to do. It's definitely not, I want to be a yoga teacher, or I want to be a teacher, or share, spirituality with people. It wasn't like that at all. So Kali Yuga, the Piscean Age, the Aquarian Age, the old Earth versus the new Earth, which is what a lot of people talk about it as. These old ego structures. We're coming into a time not of the feminine being in power, but balance between the masculine and feminine. Really understanding the interdependence, the balance, the need for polarity for us to reach that place of spiritual understanding and connection. But as much as we need that, as much as there's an interdependence, it's also about us realizing we are our source. There is not an outside source. The Aquarian Age is called the age of enlightenment. Now, enlightenment doesn't mean you don't have hard emotions. Enlightened doesn't mean that there's never seemingly something in your life that you would see as a problem. It's about thriving through that. It's about living and embodying and understanding. Not necessarily changing your experiences, but living truth, being truth. And through that, yes, your experiences actually do change. Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga in yogic philosophy and prophecy, the history now really is what it is the Dark Age. It's a time when man's consciousness was in lack, not connected to soul, not understanding the infinity of the world. It was and is a darkness, a disconnection. It's important to understand that this is really on the level of our consciousness. The Piscean Age wasn't about looking inward. There wasn't a deep understanding of consciousness. I still see articles come up on Facebook sometime and on the internet, and it really surprises me, even now, how mainstream media and people, I think in general, don't understand their own consciousness. It's a living, breathing, pulsating awareness. And we're all connected, and that's the Aquarian Age, is realizing this connection. Feeling, experiencing the connection, the synchronicities, seeing the love of oneself in another, and that symbiosis, understanding that everything that is happening for us. As our world collapses, as you know, in my life in the last 2 years, I have had so many people die, so much loss, grief, pain, and that is what is going to happen over the entire planet. All of these structures that are based on lies, ego, a few people having power and reaching to the outside, addictions, it's all going to crumble. For some, it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be a huge kick in the ass. It's going to feel relentless. For others, we might get a softer landing. Hooray, aren't you lucky? But overall, we have to remember to greet this time, that we stay in our own personal alignment. Go to our meditations, go to the things in our life that bring our awareness back to love, back to truth. And remember, we have to keep coming home. We can't reach out for the relationship. We can't reach out for the addiction, the food, the whatever. We have to come home to our feelings and start accepting them. That is the core of transforming our consciousness. And a lot of how is that happening is happening through relationships. But this video is not really about that. So Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga, the time of darkness. So I try not to get too religious because this isn't about a religion. This is everything is valid. Buddha, Jesus, Allah, all of it. The fairies, whatever. It's all real. It's all a beautiful part of our consciousness. And Kali Yuga was about saying, well, you're not right, my way is right. That is not the Aquarian Age. All of this, everything we see, feel, hear, do, touch, is a beautiful manifestation of our collective consciousness. All of it. And we have come here as spiritual beings to have a human experience, to forget how powerful we are so that we can remember. And this is the biggest show on earth. Living in this time right now is the biggest, greatest, most entertaining show you have decided to show up here for. Kali Yuga was a time when we were told that we are separate, that we have to get to our soul through an intermediary. And oftentimes that intermediary had to be a man. So that's a whole nother topic about how one side of the polarity, actually both sides, both the feminine and masculine, have been deeply, deeply repressed. in this Kali Yuga time. It's a time that wasn't based on love, not real love. It was based on should-haves, what we should be doing, how we're living our life according to what other people think, and being born with sin. Being born into a collective consciousness that believes that we are born sinners with an original sin that is actually connected to the greatest force of energy we have, which is our kundalini and sexual procreative power, is one of the darkest shadows of Kali Yuga. Creating life is sacred. The ability to create life is sacred. You cannot make it unsacred. You cannot make it a sin. There is no sin, there never was. Demonizing sexuality is one of the biggest perversions. And it's a shame that we carry, that we are slowly unwinding, embracing our power on the deepest level of spirituality, that this is a gift. Because this is the thing, it's not even just about having children. Your kundalini, the creative energy, the serpent energy, which is directly related to this age change, is what creates our consciousness, what transforms our consciousness, what creates this. All of it. It's so important to, it's also been, this original sin has minimized us. It's made us judge ourselves and think that our higher power is judging us and doesn't love us. And that is a really deep trauma that's part of the Piscean Age. The Piscean Age was about looking outward for answers, was about analytically proving everything or trying to prove things, and not about, it was about things rather than about being, doing, forcing rather than about being. The Aquarian Age is about being. It's a reconnection. So what we have happening, so right now, just Mercury is out of retrograde. Jupiter just went into Taurus. And on the 20th of January, Pluto will go into Aquarius. It will only shift out of it for a couple months in September. And then we're here until like 2043. We had a back and forth of this alignment this past year, where Pluto was going from Capricorn to Aquarius. The last time we had similar alignments was during the spiritual revival of the last century, where you saw people were doing seances. That was the first time when Eastern yogic traditions, Paramahansa Yogananda, started coming to the United States. And you had like this beginning of a drop in the bucket, where these spiritual happenings were really starting to happen and people were getting curious. I mean, it's even more extreme now. You've got millions and millions and millions of people practicing yoga. And yes, they're all different faceted. They're all going in their own different directions, but it's still an awakening, no matter what we look at it, no matter how we look at it. It's a huge shift in consciousness. And we're realizing that we cannot uplift ourselves and change our lives through shame. We cannot reach soul or God through shame or judgment. And what we've had before is a mixture where those truths were spoken of, but they were also spoken through the lens of a lot of judgment. Because people were trying to control other people because everything was so fear-based. Well, I can't get what I need from me, so I need to get it from you. And you still have that going on today, but we're moving into a completely different time. what I feel is going to happen for 2024, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be wild. It's if you're coming from the perspective of the way the fear-based ego power structures are going to try and label it, it's going to look like chaos. I recommend shutting off the news, basically, because you have to look at it from a higher perspective. It's the most difficult thing when everything seems to be collapsing. Like I said, I've had so many people in my family die. I've had to sit for several years with tears and not much happening, and just seeing everything around me collapse. And what that does is it creates a nothingness so that you have the space to see truth and to process. Whatever trauma you're holding on to is going to get triggered. It's going to get catalyzed because those old beliefs, those false structures are being dismantled and dying. So hold on. Trust. Go deep within and just keep feeling and embracing and accepting. Self-love is the most important piece for 2024, to stay in alignment, to make sure that you are creating your reality. I always knew, even from a young age, I was like, it's not about throwing money at things. That's not how the world is going to change. The world is going to change by each person taking full responsibility for their consciousness to create this new world. We cannot stop this. This is going to happen. So we're going to see upheavals again, like what happened in Iran, what's going on in the Middle East right now, especially since that area is the cusp of where religions have started, where there's so much association with the Fertile Crescent and this area. It's connected to our consciousness. All of these things that happen in the world are manifestations of collective consciousness. The more we take responsibility for our own self-love and our own life, we do make a huge impact. We have to start to see these things for us. They give us a huge opportunity to realign back into love. And we get to choose. 2024 is about choosing. Choosing love, choosing alignment, choosing to do everything in our lives out of a heart-based trust rather than an addictive need. Choosing to accept that the betrayals and the loss are happening for a reason. I look at the last few years of my life. My entire life has been really difficult with lots of abuse and challenge. The last few years of my life, no exception. But I have never felt more at peace, more connected, more grateful. I wouldn't trade any of it for anything, because I know there's a saying, understand through compassion or you will misunderstand the times. Understand through compassion or you will misunderstand the times. Have compassion for yourself and then have compassion for others. We have to take self-responsibility. Nobody's going to do it for us. So actually be grateful, because the more you're challenged, it means there's more power there to get more connected, self-love, and deeper into you. Have you felt truly connected? Have you felt the truth of life and consciousness and your own spirit? Have you felt that deeply? If you haven't felt it deeply, it's time. It's time to live your soul's truth. It's time to manifest. It's time to be you. That's the Aquarian age. That's the beauty. So don't get caught up in the violence, in the stories. Don't get caught up in the victim consciousness. There are people here who have decided to be those catalysts for us in single relationship situations, but on a whole, so that we can come together in unity, so that we can be catalyzed and triggered, so that we can live in a world where children are honored, their wisdom is honored, they are taken care of, that the creators, the artists, everyone knows their contribution to society. And we are no longer living in structures where the few exploit the many. We've allowed this on the level of consciousness, on the level of, just this whole collective creation. We've asked for it, we've allowed it, and now it's time to move through it, to rise above it, to claim our power, our needs, have them met, have our abilities, our authentic abilities shine through. Right? Nobody's going to do it for us, and we have to take the steps first. We have to step into that new reality and be willing to stand up for ourselves. And we can only do that when we heal. We can only do that when we embrace every shadow. That has got to be the biggest trick of Kali Yuga and the Piscean Age, is thinking that pushing away the shadows, pushing away the bad feelings was the way to be in a high vibration or be in a high frequency. That it was the way to reach that. It's not. Until we embrace the triggers, the shadows, the catalysts, the betrayals, the demons, we're going to be stuck. The more you give love to what you don't love, the more love you get back. The more you transform that. That's the Aquarian Age. The Aquarian Age is Christ consciousness. The Aquarian Age is love. I once had someone say to me that she didn't believe that this was based on love. She didn't believe that God was something that loved. All creation exists because of love. And anything that looks like it's darkness is still created in the honor of the remembrance of love. And it's our time to find our way home and have more love, more light. And we don't get that by rejecting the past or the parts of ourselves that are hurt. Thank you for joining me for this video. I think I'm actually going to leave it there. Now we'll do a part 2. In the part 2, we'll be talking about the Aquarian Age and how to stay aligned. I'm also offering a masterclass, Divine Alignment. It's either going to be January 7th or the 14th. I haven't quite decided yet. So sign up for my newsletter at Venus Transmissions. You can sign up for the 5-day free challenge. That will get you onto my mailing list. You can sign up for the free download. Anywhere you sign up, you will get notification of this masterclass when I make it live. It's going to be an hour and a half. We're going to look at our goals, let go of the baggage of 2023, because 2023 was a pretty heavy year, and switch our perspective on it. Instead of looking at it as, bad and we want to reject it, we're going to bring it home. We're going to accept it so that we can step in to a deeper alignment into 2024. venustransmissions.com, and aquarianyogi.net, my online yoga studio and meditation studio. If you want to stay in alignment, I highly recommend Kundalini Yoga. I've been practicing it for 25 years. Can't live without it. It is amazing. I'd love to hear your comments about how you feel about this, what your predictions are. If you're ready for 2024, I hope you are, because it's going to be a wild ride. We're going to see some huge, massive shakeups in the financial system, shakeups with the entire collective, and what is happening with leadership and our structures. And it's going to be a bit messy, for sure. So the end of the month, let's see what is going to happen at the end of the month, starting this month. We're in a time right now that is really pushing us with Jupiter in Taurus, and the alignments are very supportive of positive energy. And let's see if that can propel us into 2024 with hope and peace and love. Sat Nam.